Number 10. Honda S2000 AP2 2004A weapon disguised as a roadster. 9000 RPM redline. 2.2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. 237 horsepower. 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds. On paper, the numbers look modest. On the road, it was a completely different story. The S2000 produced more power per liter than almost any naturally aspirated production engine on the planet at that time. No turbo, no supercharger, just pure mechanical aggression. But here's where it gets interesting. Honda engineers built this car specifically to prove a point. That displacement didn't matter. That raw engineering could outperform brute force. It handled so sharply that professional drivers called it unforgiving. One wrong input at the limit, and it punished you instantly. It wasn't a car for beginners, it was a car for people who thought they were good and needed a reality check. The S2000 is still considered one of the greatest driver's cars ever produced, not because it was the fastest, because it was the most honest. Number 9. Subaru Impreza WRX STI 2004 Spec. See, this one wasn't built for the road. The road just happened to be where it ended up. 300 horsepower. Turbocharged 2.5-liter boxer engine. All-wheel drive with a driver-controlled center differential. 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds. The Spec C was a homologation special, built to satisfy rally racing regulations. Strip out the comfort, strip out the weight, add precision, add aggression. But here's what most people don't know. In certain global markets, the Spec C was tuned so close to its rally counterpart that insurance companies refused to cover it. Not because it was illegal, but because actuaries couldn't calculate the risk. On the WRC circuit, the Impreza platform had already dominated an entire era. The Spec C brought that same energy to your driveway. That's not even the craziest part. Subaru was selling this at a price that made Porsche engineers uncomfortable. Same performance, a fraction of the badge. The establishment had no answer for it. Number 8. Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 9MR. 2006, engineered like a prototype. Sold like a production car. 286 horsepower. But everyone knew that was a lie. Japan's gentleman's agreement had every manufacturer capping official figures at 276 horsepower. The Evo 9 blew past that in real-world dyno tests, regularly producing 300 or more at the wheel straight from the factory. Officially, 276 horsepower. Unofficially, nobody believed it. The MR variant added a twin-scroll turbo and a 6-speed twin-clutch transmission. It decimated corners with a precision that felt almost surgical. But the real story is the rivalry. Evo versus STI, Japan versus Japan. It was the most heated war in performance car history, two manufacturers absolutely refusing to let the other breathe. Every generation, one would leap forward, the other would respond. The Evo 9 was Mitsubishi's final statement before everything changed, the last pure, raw version before electronics started softening the edge. Some say it was the last real Evo. The engineers who built it don't disagree. Number 7. Toyota Altezza RS 200/Lexus IS 300. This one gets overlooked, that's a mistake. The Altezza RS 200 came with a 2.0-liter naturally aspirated inline-6, the legendary 3S-G e-Beams engine, 210 horsepower, screaming to an 8,000 RPM redline. Rear-wheel drive, 6-speed manual. Toyota built this to compete directly with the BMW 3 Series, not match it, compete with it. And at the limit, it did exactly that. What made it dangerous wasn't just the engine, it was the chassis. Toyota's engineers had spent years developing a rear-wheel drive platform that balanced like a sports car but behaved like a precision instrument. The weight distribution was almost perfect. Here's the twist. In Japan, this car was quietly becoming a motorsport weapon. Tuners discovered the Beams engine responded to modifications like almost nothing else in its class. 300 horsepower builds became common. 400 was achievable. Toyota never officially acknowledged what they'd built. They didn't have to. The tuning community did it for them. Number 6. Honda NSX Type R. 2002, Ayrton Senna helped develop the original NSX. That should tell you everything. The 2002 Type R took that foundation and removed everything that wasn't necessary. Sound deadening, gone. Rear seats gone. Weight stripped to 1,270 kilograms. 3.2-liter naturally aspirated V6, 290 horsepower, and a chassis so perfectly balanced it made experienced supercar drivers question everything they thought they knew. Ferrari was watching closely. The NSX had already embarrassed Italian engineering in the 1990s. The 2002 Type R was Honda saying, "We haven't forgotten, and neither should you." At the Nürburgring, test drivers reportedly lapped the Type R faster than cars with significantly more power. The reason? Honda's engineers had achieved something most manufacturers spend decades chasing, a perfect balance between mechanical grip, aerodynamic stability, and driver feedback. It wasn't just fast, it was intelligent. When Honda eventually discontinued the NSX nameplate, industry journalists called it the end of an era. They were right. Number 5, Nissan Skyline GT-R Spec 2 Nur 2002. The name alone carries weight. Named after the Nürburgring, produced in a limited run of 718 units, built specifically to honor the development testing that made the R34 what it was, 330 horsepower. Officially, the RB26D ETT Straight 6 was a different story in reality. Independent testing regularly found 340, 350, sometimes more coming directly out of the factory. 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds. Top speed electronically limited to 180 kilometers per hour, a restriction the entire industry knew was artificial. But here's what made the V-Spec 2 Nur legendary. Nissan pulled actual engine components from their Nürburgring test cars and used them as the foundation for this production run. Hand-selected internals. Precision assembly. Every unit individually checked. This wasn't mass production. It was craftsmanship wearing a production car's suit. And then, Nissan ended it. The R34 was discontinued. Emissions regulations, import restrictions in key markets, and political pressure around the GTR's dominance all converged at once. The last R34 Nur rolled off the line in 2002. It was the end of the most iconic GTR generation ever built. What happened next shocked the market. Values climbed, then they climbed again. Today, a clean V-Spec 2 Nur trades for figures that make Porsche GT3s look affordable. The world finally understood what it had let go. Number 4, Mazda RX-7 Spirit R, 2002 rotary, 2 words that split the car world in half. The Spirit R was Mazda's final statement. A limited production, goodbye to the FDRX-7 platform before emissions regulations forced its retirement. The twin-turbocharged 13B rotary engine produced 280 horsepower. But the Spirit R wasn't about raw output. It was about the experience of 1,270 kilograms of balanced, mid-front engined perfection, doing exactly what you asked. Nothing more, nothing less. Engineers at Mazda spent weeks individually selecting and matching components for the Spirit R. Suspension tuning was done by hand. Each car took significantly longer to assemble than a standard RX-7. Only 1,504 were ever made. But here's the conflict that defined this car's legacy. The rotary engine was brilliant and broken at the same time. Stratospheric power density, effortless high RPM response, and an appetite for apex seals that made reliability engineers lose sleep. Mazda knew it, buyers knew it, nobody cared. The Spirit R wasn't built for the practical. It was built for the people who understood that some things are worth the risk. When it was discontinued, Mazda officially exited the sports car market for over a decade. The Spirit R was the last real chapter of one of Japan's most daring engineering experiments. Number 3. Subaru Impreza S204. 2006 Europe never got this one. Think about that for a moment. Japan only. 320 horsepower. Brembo brakes front and rear. Bilstein suspension. A body kit developed directly from WRC data. Subaru built the S204 for one reason. To remind everyone what the Impreza platform was truly capable of when there were no compromises. No market considerations. No cost targets. Just engineering, uncaged. The S204 hit 100 kilometers per hour in under 4 seconds. On roads, in the rain, on surfaces that would have destabilized lesser cars completely. and Subaru sold it for a price that made the performance seem almost irresponsible. Only 600 units. All sold before most of the world even knew it existed. If you've never heard of it, that's exactly the point. It wasn't made for you. It was made for people who already knew. Number 2, Nissan GT-R 35, 2007. Everything changed the day this car went on sale. 480 horsepower, twin turbocharged 3.8-liter V6, dual clutch transmission with launch control so precisely calibrated it became legendary. 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds, 0 to 100 in under 3 seconds, with launch control fully engaged. The price? Just over $70,000 at launch. Porsche, Ferrari, and Lamborghini were selling cars at 2, 3, 5 times that figure, and the GTR was keeping pace or pulling ahead. But here's where it got uncomfortable for the establishment. Independent testers at Nürburgring clocked the GTR at 7 minutes 29 seconds, a time that matched and, in some cases, beat cars costing 3 times as much. Porsche disputed the methodology. Nissan responded by going back and doing it again. The results didn't change. European manufacturers had spent decades building brand mythology around performance exclusivity. The GTR dismantled that in a single lap. Performance wasn't about heritage or price. It was about engineering. Nissan had just proved it to the entire world. Number 1, Lexus LFA, 2010 10 years, 500 units, one engine that changed everything. The LFA began development in the early 2000s and wasn't released until 2010. But everything about it was conceived, engineered, and refined through the decade that defined Japanese performance. 553 horsepower, a 4.8-liter naturally aspirated V10 that revved to 9,000 revolutions per minute, 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. But the numbers missed the point entirely. Yamaha, a company better known for motorcycles and musical instruments, co-developed the engine. The result was something that defied category. The LFA's V10 responded to throttle input so quickly that Lexus had to replace the digital tachometer with an analog needle because the digital display couldn't refresh fast enough to keep up with the engine. Read that again. The instrument cluster couldn't keep up with the engine. Engineers spent years developing a carbon fiber monocoque chassis, a technology borrowed from Formula One, for a production road car. The frame was so rigid and so light that traditional automotive manufacturing couldn't produce it. Lexus built an entirely new carbon fiber facility specifically for the LFA. At one point during development, Toyota executives tried to cancel the project. The cost was too high, the return was unclear, the engineers refused to stop. The LFA launched at $375,000. Toyota sold every single unit and lost money on each one. It was never about profit, it was about proof. Proof that Japan could build the finest driver's car on earth. Proof that luxury and performance weren't compromises. And proof that the 2000s, that entire decade of obsession, rivalry, and relentless engineering, had produced something the world had never seen before. 10 cars, 1 decade. An entire era that rewrote what was possible. Japan didn't follow the rules. They engineered past them. And the cars on this list aren't just fast. They're reminders of what happens when talent, obsession, and national pride collide in a factory with no ceiling. The world is still catching up.